Welcome to the Winning in Clubroom. My name is Mark Moyer, and I'm excited to have Tim Wright in the Clubroom today. There's so much going on. There's so many different brands and new technologies and new inventions and all kinds of stuff going on. But this one that Tim's come up with his partner is really incredibly impressive, and I'll be talking about Dome Audio in a couple minutes. But first of all, I'm going to bring him in, and then I'm going to do a little bit of a quick intro. Tim grew up in the great state of New Jersey and decided, you know what, I love it here so much, I'm going to go to Rutgers. So he attended Rutgers. He set, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 or 50 different school records in high school, college, everything else, but I don't really care about that stuff. Not right now anyway. But he also played for Coach Greg Schiano, who really turned that entire program around. It's really quite remarkable. The program was 2 and 1,008 or something, and then turned it around. And then Greg became the coach down in Tampa, and at that point made sure to grab Tim on the squad. So he was signed as an undrafted free agent, had a fantastic rookie season, bunch of catches, had over 500 yards receiving, just had a great season. But then, of course, Tom Brady said, no, he's got to be on my team. So things happened, strings were pulled, and he became a Patriot and had a nice season there, played in the Super Bowl. We'll talk about that in a minute. And go ahead, show the ring. There we go. All right. Knew that was coming. Anyways, and then from there, went over, was traded to the Lions, had an injury, which always sucks. But there's so many other interesting things about you, Tim. And we're going to talk in a few minutes about the barber shop. I love it. The Wright Cut, brilliant name, as you know. And I wonder if, like when I used to be in a band, we spent more time trying to figure out the name of the band than actually playing music. So I'm just wondering how long it took you to come up with the Wright Cut, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And then, of course, now with Dome Audio, and lots of questions about that. But thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mark. Super excited, man.
So before we get into the conversation, I mean, you've now spent maybe 30 or 40 minutes in here, just sort of getting to know people and meet them. What do you think of this whole, the whole Clubroom, the technology involved with bouncing around and being able to meet people this easily?
Yeah, no, the platform is incredible. The ability to, I think the visual element of it, the fun that you can have to jump from one table to the next, even seeing if, hey, let's hop at the 2-seat table to be more private, let's hop at the 8-person table to have a broader networking opportunity. It's really cool to see it. It's been an amazing experience over the last few times I've been on. So really cool, Mark.
Awesome. And I mean, it's funny. I've had 130 some odd events in here, and it's interesting because I'm still amazed that this isn't everywhere, because it's such a, blows away the sort of the other platforms that are out there, and it's just so easy to use and to get around and speak to people. But anyways, enough of that stuff. But first and foremost, my big passion is helping athletes make that transition from when they leave their sport, or even while they're still playing, but to be prepared for leaving their sport, into what they do next. And a big percentage of athletes actually decide to become entrepreneurs because it's just their spirit. They're used to basically taking a playbook and mastering it, but then being able to run with things independently. And they can, a lot of the, wait a minute, why am I making this so easy on you? I'm telling you, I'm going to ask you instead.
Yes.
Do me a favor and tell me, and we'll talk about some football stuff in a minute, but give me a sense of, in your eyes, what sort of skills and capabilities does an athlete have that you believe plays well when you're trying to start a company and run it?
That's a great question, Mark. I think through the nature of playing sports, you have to become very connected to what it feels like to win and lose. And when you cross into that entrepreneurial space, I believe there's 2 things, and I said this in a few podcasts before, but you either win or you learn. And from your losses, you can't necessarily carry that grief and carry the frustration of what it felt like to lose for very long. You have to quickly convert that into a learning opportunity. and that's going to help, dictate your next step and the next decision that you have to make for your company, for your team. And so I think that's one of the biggest, universal lessons that you actually acquire when you start to play sport, and it translates across the board. Some of the next things you have to be, very connected with is I feel integrity. And oftentimes you hear people say, I don't necessarily have employees that work for me. I work for my team, for my staff, for my employees. And that's what I did in the world of sports when I was a captain of the team and I was the leader of my position, whether it was when I was playing wide receiver or tight end. I felt that I'm the first in line. I'm going to show the guys behind me how to actually effectively run this route or execute this play. But then once I'm coming back on the back end, I'm actually leading and supporting the guys and really showing them more than I do with my voice, actually showing them with my actions. So I think that integrity piece, what you do in the dark, comes to light. And I feel that's a reflection on your company, that shows up on the financial reports, it shows up on the quarterly reports, and it shows up during that with the health of your business. So I think overall, those are some attributes that crossed over from my playing days on the field to what I'm doing in business.
Well, look, to me, there's a few others, like the concept of grit and resiliency and bouncing back after not just a loss, but even a bad play
Mm,
is so essential when you're an entrepreneur and you're starting and running a business, or even if you're working for another company. The idea, I mean, we all face failures and mistakes and so forth. Every day there's something that pops up, and if you have the ability to literally pick yourself up off the ground, dust off, and move on to the next whatever it is, that's critical. And a lot of times some of the non-athletes don't appreciate that. That's what a lot of what athletes bring to the table that sometimes is taken for granted.
yeah, no, you nailed it, Mark. I experienced that both times in my career with tearing my ACL in both knees. And it literally was at the height of everything that I poured into it, all the preparation, all the hard work. Everybody in the organization, in the program, they knew it as well. And my sophomore year at Rutgers University, I was again at the height of breaking out, and I had my mentality set to do such. And right in training camp, it was the sixth practice. It was the last period of the practice, and I went out there. I caught a pass, and we were all supposed to stay on our feet. And somebody went over top of my back and twisted me around. My foot stayed in the ground this way, and I was facing that way. And boom, my entire season was taken away from me in that one play. And that's where I then got to grow in other areas. See, that's the thing as well. When things get taken away and snatched away from you, I believe everything happens for a reason, but you can always find that silver lining in other ways to be able to grow. So whether that's a pivot you have to make in business, whether that's a critical decision that you have to make in business because you were depending on a certain partnership to happen that didn't come through, now you have to pivot and make a move. We all experienced COVID. What did that look like for each one of us, individually, for our companies and what we do? So, with that being said, I was able to grow as a leader from the sideline. I was able to, increase my activity as being a barber for not only my teammates, but the coaching staff, their kids, for students that went to Rutgers from all around the world. I got to grow in understanding each individual's, their perspective of how do you what do they love consuming? What do they hate in the world? What do they like in the world? And that's where I was like a sponge, and I just got saturated with all of this knowledge and information, and ultimately using that for what I'm doing today. So, and then in 2016, right at the top of the year, I said I want to go back to Rutgers University, open up a barbershop hair salon on a major college campus, which was the first of its kind. And I was already in the process of doing that. I went back to school. I took advantage of one of the programs the NFL had for, a crash course of entrepreneurship. And right at the first practice of OTAs, which is organized training activities, spring practice in football, I went out there, first offense and defense series. I ran a route. I was about to catch a pass. boom, tore my ACL again. Foot stayed that way. I got twisted that way. And so at that point, I knew NFL stood for not for long.
That's right.
And that's
That's
where
right.
I went
Yeah.
headfirst into entrepreneurship. I had the blessing to be able to do my rehab back at home. Like you said, New Jersey, I made that my home. That's where I was born and raised my whole life. But I was able to be in person through that process of opening that barbershop hair salon through every step of the way. And so those are the type of things that, you know, when you look back on it, you say, you know, I tore my ACL, I'm out for a year, but what other ways can I grow? What other things can I plant seeds for to manifest in my future? And that's what I did.
Perfect. And you
Yeah.
don't necessarily need to have the ACL for when you're cutting hair.
That's
I
right.
mean, it's not as active, I'm assuming, right?
Right.
Um,
Of course.
so you know what? I hope everyone here is fascinated with the idea that you know, it's funny because many athletes will often they'll open a restaurant, they'll do something completely different, and you opened a barber shop. But I love the story. Tell me what got you started?
What got me
Yeah.
started? Yeah, so just quickly, very early on, I fell in love with landscaping. And that was due to following my grandparents around the yard when they got off of work. And we'll be out there from 4 o'clock all the way to the sundown. But I just fell in love with how you can make something look incredibly out of whack and then turn it to make it look something beautiful. That then transpired into me, you know, having the best projects in class and having the best handwriting. And then at the age of 13, my dad used to take me to the barber shop almost every week, and the barber had messed up my hair, and my dad said, you know what, I'm gonna buy a pair of clippers and this will never happen again. And the clippers used to sit in a bag in my room. And one day I said, you know what, I'm gonna pick up that pair of clippers because I trust in my artistic ability. I trust in my hand. I sat on the bathroom counter, had a mirror in my hand, cut my hair, and I never looked back. And I was literally, the rest was history. So I started cutting my friends' hair, family. I did it throughout high school. Once I got to Rutgers is where it really took off. But I appreciated every 30 minutes that a person sat in my chair, the type of conversations, the dialogue, the
Yeah.
things I learned, what I was able to pour in people. And as I said, once I got to Rutgers, I was cutting hundreds of people. So that's where it evolved. And then, you know, I always had a big imagination growing up. And then once you get older, now you call that being a visionary. And I just had this vision saying, when every student come to a university, they're leaving where they come from, and people have, you know, barbers or hairstylists for their whole life growing up, and then once they have to move, you have to find a new barber or hairstylist. So I just thought that there was an opportunity in an isolated market there to take advantage of, and it's been going now for the last 7 years, and it's been an incredible experience. So that's the story of the Wright Cut.
All right. So I need to know something. I don't know about everybody else here today, but when I've tried to cut my own hair, I'll just here. Hang on a second. I'm gonna do it right now.
Yeah, let's see it.
So basically, if I'm looking in a mirror and I'm doing this, it
Right.
feels like it's on the other side. And then I'm like this, and then the scissors are up here somewhere, and I can't figure out where I'm supposed to put them.
Right.
And so I don't even, whatever. I don't know. Maybe you're
Listen,
ambidextrous, or you got some, I don't know. Maybe you have two left hands. I'm not sure how it
right.
works at
A
all.
lot of trial and error.
Not in the mirror. Like I can do it if I have to. You know, I did actually cut my hairs. You know, my son's hair once, and during
Right.
COVID, and I did leave a little thing in the back, like a missing chunk, I guess we'd call
Right.
it. He wouldn't have known about it, but I did fess up, and he wasn't
Oh
very happy
man.
about it. But I mean, since it was COVID, no one else could see him for a while, so
That's
we're fine.
right.
But well, let me ask you something else. So at the Wright Cut right now, do you have on the walls? You have some jerseys and this and that, or none of that stuff, or
Mm,
yes?
none of that stuff. So
No?
my vision was to think outside the box. Like
Yeah.
you see, you know, you said it, a lot of athletes, they open up, you know, brick and mortar locations,
Yep.
and the first thing they want to do is get all these jerseys and
Yeah.
memorabilia everywhere. But I was like, nah, that's not me. I wanna be futuristic. I wanna, you know, have a business that's clean, that's high, you know, high quality. So I put LED screens, vertical LED screens on the wall. And anytime a celebrity or an athlete will come into the establishment, we can actually feature their image. And then during the week, we can advertise and have different things that's happening on campus, literally on the screen, showcase the barbers and stylists work. So that's how I thought out the box. I wanted to have it clean and super high end, and that's why I did it.
I'm just going to give you a quick little marketing idea, for free today,
Let's
today
go.
only. I mean, look, Tracy's already in love with you because you're, Patriots and all this kind of stuff, right?
Yes, yes.
I really couldn't care less, obviously, but I mean, if you're gonna have something, at least you gotta have some autographed stuff there. Why don't you then just autograph some scissors? Have a line of cutting, just sign it right there,
Right.
you know, the Wright Cut by Tim, or I don't know, whatever.
Right.
There you go.
Exactly.
Run with it. Just sell
Yes.
scissors.
I'm gonna
I
take
mean,
that one.
as long as
Thank
people
you,
don't
man.
run with them, that's dangerous, as you know.
Absolutely.
So was it I mean, you kind of glossed over it a little bit in the sense that you said, well, gee, after your, the second ACL and so forth, and you were kind of like, well, it becomes now the, not for long NFL. But was that to you, was it I don't want to say an easy decision because it's not an easy decision to stop playing, but
Yeah.
was that the seminal moment? Was that the moment where you said, you know what, I don't know if I can come back from this one. Why don't I dedicate my life to my next life?
Yeah, no, it was always the next step. The moment that I hung up my cleats, I always envisioned, okay, entrepreneurship, that's my second passion.
Yeah,
And of course you got to play sports first because you can't flip that and play sports when you're old. So
yeah,
I took care of the first one. I understood, and I was very grateful for the platform that I was blessed with. I use, of course, the championship ring as just an opportunity to engage and continue to generate more and more business. But
mhm,
the way it worked out, 2016, actually 2015 was my last playing season. So 2016, I tore my ACL. I opened up the barber shop, and I positioned that to become an automated, business model. So that was great. I didn't have to be in the actual establishment at all times. And then 2018, I worked my way back on the field, but I actually didn't make the team for the season. So I did OTAs, I did training
yeah,
camp, but it came down to a numbers game. And when
yeah,
you're older in the NFL and you cost more, it's a bigger liability for the franchise. So they look to bring in, it's like that rotating door. They look to bring in the younger, cheaper guys that can do similar, have
yeah.
similar production as you, but at half the cost. And that's what it came down to. So back in then 2018, I got presented with the opportunity of Dome Audio, and that's where
Yeah,
the rockets
took
took off.
off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about that moment because we all look, that's a lot of what happens here in the club room, or a lot of these moments where people hear about something for the first time. I heard about something earlier, just about 20 minutes ago, about a new
Yes.
product that someone's talking about in here. And it's exciting because there's a bajillion products out there, but we don't know where they come from, how they emerge, what got them started, who made blank first, all this kind of thing. But then also who ran with, there's the idea and then there's the execution. When you were presented with the idea with Doma, tell me about, you know, where, under what circumstances, and how'd you hear about it?
Man, I'll never forget it.
Yeah,
And certainly throughout this opportunity here to speak with you guys today, and then after the call, I can share some assets with you that would really illustrate the visual first time I had the experience. But essentially, my partner Ben White, he's the IP developer of Dome Audio, and back in 2015 is when we were introduced to each other. And God rest her soul, her name was Tanya Payton. She was Jay-Z's manager for the first 10 years of his career. They actually grew up together. But my partner was in the music industry for 25 years as a songwriter, producer, musician.
okay,
And he was developing this eyewear which enhanced your hand-eye coordination, which i.e. enhanced my ability to perform on the field. And that was in his prototype stage. But he then got his hands on a pair of conventional bone conduction headphones. And essentially, you put these headphones on like this. The speakers actually sit on your bone, and your ears are completely open. And so he sent me a rendering of Dome headphones in my email. He said, "Hey, Tim, I just want you to take a look at this. Tell me what you think." And when I opened up the email and saw it was a headphone, I was like, You got to be kidding me. A headphone now? Like, this is like, the eyewear was, I'm thinking all professional athletes. It can be, incredible for enhancing everyone's game. But headphones is a category that's more universal. When he showed it to me, he said, "Yeah, man, and check out what it can do." So the actual there's two elements to this headphone, and I'll show you in a second. But essentially, the headphone is completely open ear, but it has this component called a dome cover that's interchangeable. And when I saw that, this was at the height of brand collaborations being a new way that companies are starting to cross pollinate and really expand their brand. So I was like, those dome covers, that's headphone real estate. We could put any license logo, any brand on the face of those covers. So he said then, hey man, I got a prototype. Why don't you come up to the lab? I went up to the lab and I first tested this out and I was like, man, this is incredible. Like, we got full dialogue, nothing in your ears. But then he put a headband on my head. This was in the early days of Dome. And he put the 4 speakers underneath the headband. And when he pressed play with that music, it was like an experience unlike anything else I had heard before. And that's when I was like, the future is now. And I want to join you in this cockpit and take this to the moon. And at the time, it was more so, a blank canvas. He had the prototype of the technology through the evolution, but it was an opportunity for me to come on and truly infuse everything that I had into this. And that was the beginning days of Dome.
And so describe for us, because it's almost like every one of us are used to sticking something in our ear, and the
Yes,
sound goes into our ear, and it
correct.
rattles around in the air, and that's how we hear it.
That's right.
What's happening with the? Tell me about this.
Yes. So this is the world's first open and closed ear bone conduction headphone. This is actually our prototype 3.0. And my partner, Ben, he had no engineering background. He literally came up with this concept as a vision in his head. He then sketched it on paper. He hired some engineers, got some 3D renderings, and he built this. This was over 40 different components, built it from scratch, from the 3D printer to the sanding station, to the painting station, to the electronic station, and now we have a functional headphone. So what this is, you can literally attach this dome cover to the face of the headphone just like this, and you have the ability to be open ear with 4 speakers that provides a surreal sound experience. And then this dome cover is the opportunity to go into a privacy mode. But the way the technology works is it sends the sound directly through your bone into your inner ear, rather than like how we're used to Beats and Bose and all of these other brands. They use air conduction, which sends the sound through the ear canal, and then it has to go through the middle ear all the way into the inner ear. Now, here's where the magic came. Because we have 4 speakers rather than just 2, we're automatically doubling the sound and the fidelity, right? But bone conduction allows people who are deaf and hard of hearing also enjoy headphones. And so the reason, and because we have 4 speakers, most people with hearing challenges reside in the outer ear, like near the
really?
ear canal. Exactly.
Okay.
And that's why Beats and Bose and all these other brands aren't effective for them. But because we're putting the speakers on the bone and it's going directly into the inner ear, that's unlocking the magic of the experience.
Wow.
And there's a 500 million people in the world who are deaf and hard of hearing, who has been literally inherently overlooked by the headphone experience. So now that we can bring both worlds together, it's a phenomenal opportunity for Dome to disrupt the industry.
Now, I know, I'm assuming this isn't necessarily an inexpensive item, because it takes a lot.
Absolutely.
But I feel like it's something that can be certainly, at some level, especially if it's at schools or something, it could be shared. It could be, I mean, what's exciting about this, I know you know this,
Yes.
is how this can, I was going to say open the eyes for so many people, but it's opening the ears for so many people. And, I've seen videos and footage of when a baby who has not been able to hear and they first start hearing, how it's incredible. And
Yes.
I think that's got to be the exciting thing. So you heard about this idea. This was a few years ago. Tell me about some of the sort of challenges and hurdles you've had to face to get to the point here where you've got version 3.0. And, what's been, because I'm assuming, look, I'm incredibly impatient. I want something to be out tomorrow. Like, I can't wait all this time. How have you
Yes.
been able to remain patient?
Mark, it's been a testament to, I believe, just who I am and who my partner is as people, and understanding the evolution of anything that has manifested that we see, whether it's Tesla, whether of course is your social platforms, whether it's your category busters like Uber, Airbnb, all of these different categories. But coming back to the hardware space for companies like Apple, they're developing technology 5 years in advance, 10 years in advance before we even see it brought to life. And with that in mind, what we actually we studied closely as one of the more modern day examples, Beats by Dre. And they literally took a headphone off the shelf. It was a conventional headphone, and they put a phenomenal brand and movement around that headphone, and they got acquired for $3.3 billion. They had zero IP, they had no proprietary technology, and we here have 4 patents that's been granted, 4 design patents.
Wow.
So we know what we possess, we know the value that we have. All we have to do is day by day stack the bricks, do it right, do it with integrity. All the investors that we brought on board to date, we understand that they believed in us, and it's our job to manifest this vision and what they actually invested in. And so the patience, we felt that with what we experienced from the pandemic, there was like this neutralizing opportunity where everything came to a halt in the world. And we knew all the conversations of companies now and the branding, everyone had to go back to their creative box to then resume and jumpstart, how they had to lead in market share. And we knew for Dome, we had a concept where it was this idea of be open, stay connected. Because if it wasn't for the pandemic, opportunities and platforms like the one we're on today really wouldn't have manifested to what it is. So I truly think that it was just in our DNA, and we've seen the fruits of our labor by putting this headphone on people one by one and seeing the response. It was unparalleled. The ability to hear something in full fidelity, crystal clear. Not only are you, if you're hearing, but people who are deaf and hard of hearing, giving them sound and experience for the first time for a lot of those folks was incredibly fulfilling. And so it was when we got invited to Gallaudet University, which is the world's most prominent deaf and hard of hearing university in the world. We had the opportunity to put the headphone on about 3 dozen people who had never truly experienced headphones, and the way they reacted, it was that surge of just nitrous, like, all right, it's go time, and it's truly a transformational experience. So that's what we wake up with, that desire and that passion every day to bring this to life, and we're very close now.
That's
Yes,
amazing. That's amazing.
absolutely.
Just super fast. There's a Q&A section on the far right there. So if
Yes.
folks, if you want to throw in some questions for Tim or myself, please feel free to put them there. And I see Shirley has a question. She says, I saw on Forbes talk about the 4D experience of Dome. How did you and Ben decide on those elements?
Ooh, man, thank you for bringing that up, Shirley. So the 4D experience, rather than conventional headphones, as a 2D experience.
Yeah.
The 2D experience is the auditory and the brand connection, the emotional connection you have to the brand. Those are the 2 dimensions. The 3D experience of bone conduction is the auditory, the brand, and then the tactile, because you not only hear the music, with bone conduction, you feel the music. And so with Dome, we have not only 4 speakers, and this model we call the 4D headphone. I'm sorry, the D4 headphone. This is called the D4 headphone. But the 4D experience is the auditory, the tactile, because you now feel it with 4 speakers, the visual element with our dome covers. So for example, we all have brands, we all have logos we love and brands we love. So now imagine taking that dome cover and giving people the opportunity to
Nice.
consume their
Yeah.
favorite brands, right?
Yeah.
Another example is with the upcoming Olympics, which is one of our campaigns. Now imagine countries' flags on your dome covers. So we're essentially selling headphone real estate to brands through licensing deals, but then when the consumers wear them, they become mobile billboards. So that's the last dimension of the 4D experience. And we just thought, because it's so much of an outer box, headphone and design, we also have to have our unique marketing and taglines and ways we connect it to the world. So that's the 4D experience.
So we spoke the other day about how, getting this out to market and getting people to buy and sort of building up the excitement
Yes.
surrounding the launch and so forth. So give me an idea of when people when you're going to start producing these and when people can have them
Yes,
on their bones.
absolutely. So we've been blessed with the opportunity just here recently as one of our updates to partner with ex-Apple engineers who are going to take Dome headphones to the finish line. And our goal is to have Dome headphones under your tree this year for the Christmas holiday. So that's what we're anticipating. We're also developing a proprietary app just to give a couple
Yep.
quick more features, Mark. So this app is going to be a companion to the headphone. So when you put the headphone on, you're going to go through a hearing test that would essentially calibrate a personal listening experience for you. You would then actually register, each headphone will be one of one, and you would register with the serial number your headphone to the app. So now the value of your headphone has just went up. And
Wow.
then after that, you're going to have the opportunity to now go into a live sporting event and watch the game live while getting live commentary through your headphone. You can go to a conference where someone is speaking on stage in a different language, and you can select right through the app what language you want to translate into in real time. You can be at a sports bar or a place that has multiple TVs around, and while you're there having dialogue and connecting with your friends and family, you can actually tap TV7 and get live audio right through your headphone. So these are the ways that we're going to impact the way the world experiences technology, sound. But overall, that's what we're driving. That's what the design, the experience, and the proof of concept and proof of demand is what we've been able to garner by companies and people that work for Apple and these other magnificent companies. And so, yeah, man, we're excited to bring it this year, and it's gonna change the face of the earth.
And so Dwayne just he just jumped in. By the way, Dwayne's out in Hawaii, so that's pretty cool. Hi,
Oh
Dwayne.
yeah,
Good to see you again, buddy.
how you doing, Dwayne?
Um, so he says, this use of bone conduction hearing, will it allow those with partial hearing loss to experience more of the sound spectrum? Because
Yes.
obviously there's the different waves. So
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely, Dwayne.
great
So
question.
again, because we have 4 speakers, this is also another unique IP utility that all 4 speakers can actually function independently. Whereas what we're used to is two speakers on the side of your ears going through your ear canal, and that's the extent of the listening experience. So, if anybody here is into meditation or yoga or just health and wellness, you can now have different algorithms of sound, and not only people for the deaf and hard of hearing, but people who are autistic as well. They wear headphones, and it brings this sense of calibration. So now you can have an open ear experience, still hear your parents, still hear your therapist or your teachers while actually having the therapy in real time. So yes, this is a full spectrum. And ultimately, I didn't say this earlier, Mark, but for everyone listening, part of the reason why investors are inspired to come on board, and you guys have an open invitation as well. I'll put the link in the chat on how you can join us in a few clicks of a button. But ultimately, we're positioning Dome Audio with its portfolio of IP, with its platform to have these licensing deals and collaborations, and this impact that it's going to make in the world for the deaf and hard of hearing, for people who are autistic, even in the military. One of the number one disabilities that veterans come home with is hearing loss through
Yeah.
the explosions, gunfire, the
Mhm.
whole nine. So, with all of that said, we're positioned Dome Audio for an acquisition. And what we've been doing over the last few years by demonstrating the IP and the impact, that's what our mission is over the next 18 to 24 months, is demonstrate that and position it for an acquisition. So yes, absolutely.
Now, Dave brought up a good point earlier. He says, is this something that maybe can be turned into some sort of phone technology?
See, this is why we want to position Dome for an acquisition, because we understand what we created is certainly a blessing, and what we have is a category disruptor.
Mm.
But a company like an Apple, a company like a Microsoft or an Amazon or a Meta, they can then acquire Dome, put the resources behind it, and evolve the technology into those various things that you just mentioned, Mark. For sure, because it's a new form and a different form of consuming audio that most of the world has never experienced. Yes, it definitely has a lot of applications that can come into play, for sure.
So, Dave, there you go. There's
There
your
it
next
is.
thing. Quit your job.
Absolutely.
Anyway, no, I'm
Absolutely,
kidding.
man. Thank
Um,
you.
And so Dwayne comes back and says, look, the world is your oyster, as they say. So many fields in mental health and other disabilities were the ones that this can be applied to. So,
Yes.
there's a lot going on here. So this is exciting. What needs to, I know you're raising money, but what needs to happen next? What's the next step for you?
Yeah. So the next step right now, we're super focused on raising our last 800K for this round. And just for some quick context, everyone, we're raising at 64 cents per share. And our goal for Dome is to drive that share price up to, $50 per share, plus by the time acquisition comes, just to give you context. But essentially, that capital will allow us to complete the engineering of our technology. So just to give you a couple quick, visuals of what we have, this is a portable charging case, which is first of its kind. So when you open up the charging case here, this is where you store your headphones, and when you slide it into place, it charges on the go. And then this is where you store your headphones. The next model that we're also working on, because it's built on the same platform, is our stationary charging case. And so this is where you can actually store it in your office, your desk, your dresser at home. And when you open this case here, you slide your headphones in place, and then your Dome covers can rest right on the side there, and its logo will light up to tell you how charged it is. So we're reserving this for our high-end brand collaborations, but this is the evolution that we already have in the queue. So to answer your question, Mark, it's pretty much a short-term phase that we're in right now. And then once we complete this and complete the engineering of mass production, then we're going to go and raise for growth capital. So that's going to be at of course, a higher share price. It's going to be at a higher amount that we're raising, and it's to the moon from there.
So I'm not allowed to promote investment in any companies. So it's not me actually saying, sounds like a pretty good thing to jump into. Officially.
Right.
Say that.
Absolutely.
I'm involved with a company or two that are in the same thing. Look, right now it can be a challenging time to raise money.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I know everybody looking to raise money, and
Right.
no one that has the money, right? But some of these things really certainly stand out, and I think what's happening with Dome is really quite remarkable, because of its various uses. And I think it's sort of the same with some of these other brands, and including some of the ones that are here today. That you've got, if there's something that you can bring into the mix that is a category breaker. This is not just another set of headphones. This is bone conduction. This is remarkable, but it can be applied in other ways. So if someone else somehow figures out a way to copy it, well, at least you're still ahead of the game.
That's right.
So I think that's brilliant. So is this right now, do you spend the chunk of your day, like, who are you trying to meet ideally? If it's like, if you're meet some folks here today, who are the ideal people to meet, or people that are in their networks, our networks? Who would you love to meet?
Yeah. No, so just to bring more clarity, and thanks for the throwing it off the glass, Mark. I know you got to be within the parameters, man, but I really appreciate it. Also want to let everyone know, in the question and answer section, I added the link that you can go check out and browse the opportunity to invest right there on that platform. Also, if anyone on this call today is interested in reaching out to me directly, and let's say you're considering an investment that's more substantial, we're doing some creative deals right now with incentives. So I'll put my email in the chat, but it's tim.wright@domeaudioinc.com. So you can reach out to me directly as well. But overall, Mark, we're in that space of angel investors. And people, what we want to do this year is drive anywhere between 5 to 10,000 units in pre-orders. And I know you also put that in there as well, Mark. So if anyone is interested in that too, that's also open. But overall, the angel investor, category right now is where we are, because once we get sales underneath us, once we have more traction, that's when you sit at the table with a VC, it's a better conversation. And that's ultimately where we are. We've been fortunate to attain and retain 93% of the company's equity in Dome. So we've had a lot of different offers, a lot of different deals, even possible acquisitions already. But the maturity of Dome and proving out the proof of concept, proof of demand is really what we want to demonstrate. But overall, anyone that's on the call today that's looking where purchase order opportunities, some type of partnerships, some type of, if any advisors or consultants are on a call that can, join our mission and what we're doing with Dome and really bring it to the finish line. That's who I'm looking to meet.
All right, a couple quick things. Number one, what is the level of investment needed to get a free haircut?
That's a dope question, Mark. The level, man, for a free haircut, man, I'm gonna say let's mark it at 10,000, man. We'll mark it at 10,000.
Oh my God. All right, or for $24, I'll get the haircut.
Hey, once you get right, you can't go wrong. So
Nice.
just throw that out there, Mark.
Nice. Thank God you weren't named Tim Wrong. That would have been terrible.
Absolutely.
That's great. Listen, before I forget, one thing. Do me a favor and throw that link in the general chat, because in the Q&A section there, it can't be linked or connected or whatever the heck it is. So just throw it in there if you could.
Okay. Absolutely.
All right, batting last. I've got a couple of quick questions for you. Number one, not that I'm fascinated with Tom Brady in any sort of weird way, but I'm assuming you caught a touchdown or two from him.
Yes.
And he's thrown a couple in his life. But tell everybody here something that maybe most people don't know about him that you do.
So whatever, how can I say it? Whatever perspective you have towards Tom Brady and what you see on TV as, a guy who may not be as friendly as you think, the guy he's a huge heart, man. When I got traded there from Tampa Bay Buccaneers my rookie year, the moment I walked through that building, which was about 4 to 5 hours later, once I landed in New England, they brought me right up to his locker, and he turned around. He was texting on his phone. He threw his phone in his locker. He stood up. He said, "Timmy Wright, I watched your film. Mind you, I'm just a 22-year-old guy, wasn't drafted. Yes, I exploded in my rookie season and blew up, but he had so much respect for me, and he was like, let's go win it." And I looked up, and my locker was right next to him. And literally for that entire season, I just got to see him at work. What made him as special as he is, and truly, he comes in at, I would say 5:30 in the morning. He gets 2 massages a day, and I'm talking performance massages, ones that's like rapid. It's like rapid technique that they use just to get his whole body going. I mean, what is he now? 46, 40, whatever, 47, and still played at that level just about up to a year ago. So just seeing all that he put into it inspired me to execute and prepare the way that I did throughout my career. So yeah, that's what I would say, man. He's an incredible guy, super guy. Yeah.
Good. All right, give me 3 people right now, alive or dead, that you'd love to have dinner with.
LeBron James, of course. That's one of, I get told often that I resemble him in a lot of ways, but I respect on and off the court the impact he's making in people's lives. I would love to have met Steve Jobs, but I think the guy Johnny Ive, who was the lead engineer for Apple for, I would say, 20 to 25 years. He is actually the mentor of one of the lead engineers that we have working on Dome headphones now. So the spirit of Steve Jobs is being now infused in the Dome. So I'll take that. And lastly, I would have to say Martin Luther King. I think it would be really cool to meet him. And those are three different categories. I think
Yeah,
LeBron,
perfect.
because of his greatness today, on and off the court in sports. Steve Jobs, because of what he did and just setting a new precedent and over the last century with tech. And then lastly, Martin Luther King, because of his courage, his belief and really, defying the odds. And yeah, I think those would be the three people.
Nicely done.
Thanks.
Tim, you're fantastic. Listen, I'm the reason I host these events is not because I necessarily, I mean, I'm a huge sports fan, but I care a little bit less about what happened, sort of on the field, on the court, on the rink, et cetera, and more so what you're doing now. And you've had a fantastic transition. And, I know that, it's been, you're now getting to the point where it's getting really, really exciting with your company. And I'm
Yes.
sure that's incredibly gratifying. I think a lot of people think that these things happen overnight, and it doesn't, especially when you're talking about something brand new like this. So
Right.
I want to congratulate you on how far you've come so far.
Thank you, Mark.
But also the exciting stuff. And look, for everybody else out listening, and you can be part of it too. So make sure to chase down Tim wherever. Again, I know that you're on LinkedIn, you're on social media everywhere. He's got his email in here.
Yes.
So chase Tim down for that. So thanks again. I really appreciate you being here, and best of luck, man. This is great.
No, thank you so much, Mark, for the opportunity. Thank you, everyone, for listening in today. I had a chance to, meet some of you in the different sections, but would love to connect with you all. And I wish everyone the best with their endeavors and what they're doing with business and in life. So, thank you, Mark.
All right, that's fantastic.
Awesome.
All right, so we're gonna go back to the table now, and then you have a chance to chat with some more folks. But
Awesome.
You're the best, man. Appreciate it.
Mark, appreciate you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah,